All right, NBA fans, the New York Knicks are looking for their next head coach. They've finally begun interviewing guys for that coaching position after they fired David Fizdale last year. Now, I spent 2 years there and only accumulated a 21-83 record. Not a pretty number for the New York Knicks and David Fizdale. And then they brought in Mike Miller as the interim head coach. He was coaching the G League for a while, and then he came up and actually did a pretty good job with the team. Now, we know for sure that they're going to be interviewing at least 3 head coaches, but I've got 5 names I want to break down today. But before I break those 5 down, I want you guys to play the owner, the GM of the New York Knicks, and say, hey, I'm going to hire the next head coach, and here's who I pick. Let me know down in the comment section below. And maybe you're on the same line. You're in the same line of thinking as the New York Knicks, and you want Tom Thibodeau as your next head coach, because that's who the Knicks have at the top of their list. Now, Tom Thibodeau is reportedly, like I said, at the top of their wish list. He's going to get an interview. Now, the last time he coached in the NBA as a head coach was for the Minnesota Timberwolves back in the 2018-2019 season, but then he was fired in January of 2019. So he didn't last really all that long in his second year, in that year with the Timberwolves. Now, we all know Thibodeau from his years with the Chicago Bulls. That's where he really excelled as a head coach. But the problem that a lot of players had with him and a lot of really teams had with him is that he just runs his players into the ground. They play a lot of minutes on under Tom Thibodeau. But when he was with the Bulls, he did a really good job of getting some wins. In 2010, 2011, he racked up the Coach of the Year award after going 62-20. Now, they didn't win the finals. Obviously, they didn't make it to the Eastern Conference, to the NBA Finals either. That was the Miami Heat. But then the next year follows that up with a 50-win season. Next year takes a little bit of a dip, goes down to 45, jumps back to 48 wins, finishes his career in Chicago with a 50-win season. But at that point, the Bulls and Thibodeau's relationship has really soured. And like I said, he'd already run a lot of their younger players into the ground. And that's really why I have a problem with Thibodeau. I think he's a great coach, don't get me wrong. But when you've got a young team like the Knicks, you don't want to run your guys 40 minutes a night every single night. And that's what he was doing with guys like Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah on the Chicago Bulls. So maybe he's on the top of their wish list, but I wouldn't put him there. But if you guys want some more NBA coverage, because let's face it, the NBA is coming back. And with that, we're ramping up our NBA coverage here on Chat Sports. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get a good amount of new subscribers from today's video. So go to youtube.com/chatsportstv, or we'll make it really easy for you. You just scroll down to the comment section or in the description and hit the big red subscribe button again. youtube.com/chatsportstv for all of your favorite teams' NBA coverage. Now, another guy that is going to get an interview, according to The Athletic, is Kenny Atkinson, formerly the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He was actually an assistant coach for the New York Knicks not too long ago. We don't know exactly when he's going to get his interview, but we know that it's going to happen. Now, earlier this year, the Nets weren't doing that bad. They had a playoff spot pretty much locked up. But the Nets and Atkinson mutually agreed to part ways. I don't buy that for a second. I think Atkinson got fired from the Nets, but there was reports that a lot of players wanted him out of Brooklyn. And when I say a lot of players, I think there were 2 players that wanted him out of Brooklyn: Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, because everything else we know is that some players really did respect Atkinson. Now, he didn't have a great career. He hasn't had a great career with the Brooklyn Nets quite yet, but that's because he hasn't had great Brooklyn Nets teams. He's racked up 118 wins and 190 losses, not great win percentage of nearly 40%. He's only made it to the playoffs that one time with the Nets where they went 1-4, but they lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, and he was playing Jared Dudley on Ben Simmons and somehow made it work. Personally, I think Kenny Atkinson should be at the top of the wish list for the New York Knicks. I'm a big fan of this guy. He didn't get a lot of time to prove himself in Brooklyn, so give him a young team and let him grow those new New York Knicks. Now, Atkinson was just recently fired, but there are a lot of NBA coaches that probably aren't going to last that long. So which NBA coach is going to be fired next? Which ones are on the chopping block? Let me know down in the comment section below. There's a lot of coaches, a lot of bad teams that might be blamed and booted out the door pretty soon. Now, another guy that is going to get an interview, he gets a fair shot, is Mike Miller. That's right. It's the interim head coach that we already talked about. I know I probably said Mike Miller and you thought of the long, slicked back hair, the guy that used to play for the Miami Heat and the Memphis Grizzlies. Wrong Mike Miller. Different guy. But Mike Miller was hired as that interim coach, and he actually did a pretty good job. In fact, there were a lot of New York Knicks that said, we respect this guy. We like this guy. We like what he's done for our team, and he's really gained and earned their trust. Now, the Knicks are super young. They've got Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. and Kevin Knox, even Julius Randle still young, Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, of course, the real building block of that team. And they'll have a high draft pick. You want a coach they will respect. And if you want their respect, Mike Miller's already earned a lot of the locker room's respect. Now, when Fizdale was fired, he had only played 22 games in that season, but he only got 4 wins in his time last year and 18 losses. That's a win percentage of a whopping 18%. Now, for his career with the New York Knicks, he's a 34% winner. Not great either. Now, Miller, of course, takes over in a tough position there, but he goes in, coaches twice as many games as Fizdale did last year, gets 17 wins and 27 losses. Really actually respectable for the roster that he had to work with. I like Mike Miller a lot. Even if he isn't hired as a head coach, I think they should try to keep him on the coaching staff, and potentially he gets an offer somewhere else. Maybe the next head coach that's fired, Mike Miller takes over for them wherever it may be. I think he deserves a fair shot, and he's going to get one, as he will get an interview. Now, whoever goes to New York next is going to need some new New York Knicks gear. And when you want New York Knicks gear, you're going to go to Fanatics, chatsports.com/KnicksT. 25% off, just $26 for these sweet New York Knicks t-shirts. Go pick yourself up one and save some money while you do it over at Fanatics. Again, if you want this sweet deal on this shirt, $26, it's chatsports.com/KnicksT. Now let's talk about 2 guys that we don't know are going to get interviews, but I think should be considered for a coaching job or will be considered for a coaching job. Mark Jackson, former head coach of the Golden State Warriors. Every time there's an open position with any NBA team, Mark Jackson's name always comes up. Now, he did play 7 seasons with the New York Knicks, so he already knows the organization. He already knows the city. He already knows the team. And, of course, we know he coached the Warriors for those 3 years and then got canned. Steve Kerr comes in, makes them the dynasty they are. And, of course, we know he's been on the call ever since he's been in broadcasting. Now, in his 3 years with the Warriors, he did build this team up. He takes the 2011-2012 team that was basically hot garbage, 23-43, moves them into a 47-win team in 2012-2013, and then 2013-14 boosts that up to a 51-31 record. Now, did he underachieve with the Warriors? Yeah, probably, considering where they're at now with Steve Kerr. But 51 wins from 23 wins is impressive. And if he already knows New York, then New York might come calling and say, hey, maybe you are the next guy that should be here. And if he's there, maybe he can lead them back to the promised land, because the whole goal of a new coach is to get someone that can lead them to the playoffs. So when will the New York Knicks return to the NBA playoffs? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I think they're going to get a top 5 pick, top 6 pick in this next draft, and then take a couple years, let that guy, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Kevin Knox, let them all mesh and gel, and of course Mitchell Robinson, and then maybe in 2 to 3 years, the Knicks will be fighting for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Now, one last guy I want to talk about is this Baldy, Jeff Van Gundy. Of course, coached the Knicks for 7 seasons back when they were really good. Back the last time the Knicks were ever good, Jeff Van Gundy was that head coach. Now, we do remember, of course, that he did coach the Houston Rockets for 4 years from 2003 to 2007. T-Mac, Yao Ming, really, that was a great team, and he did a great job of coaching them up. And then, like Mark Jackson, he's been in broadcasting ever since. You always hear the two on the call together, and now these two might be considered for an NBA head coaching position with the New York Knicks. Now, you look at his best years in New York, and if the Knicks want to get back to prominence, these are the numbers they're going to want to be looking at. In 96-97, 57-25. A lot of you guys that are watching today are too young to even remember when the Knicks were that good, but there was a time they were getting 57 wins. Then 1999-2000, Jeff Van Gundy's still in charge, 50-32. Falls off a little bit, 2000-2001 to 48-34. Then he continued a little decline, 45-37 in 03-04. But then in 1998, 1999, the reason I don't have this one at the top is because it was a shortened season, but they were 27-23, and they were Eastern Conference champions. That's right. Jeff Van Gundy led them to a conference championship. So maybe, just maybe, he can do it again in a few years if he gets the head coaching job. Now, I've got Kenny Atkinson as my favorite to land the position. I think it'll be Thibodeau as the choice. I think it should be Atkinson, but Mike Miller is up there as well. But whoever gets it, I'm just ready to get some NBA basketball back. So how excited are you that the NBA is going to return? Because we all know it's coming back in mid-July, maybe late July. Give me a scale, 1 all the way up to 10. 10 being you're ecstatic, you can't wait, you're already itching to get some more basketball. 1 being, you don't care. And if you put a 1, you're probably not even watching this video, so it doesn't matter. Guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.